Assalamu alaikum, program Perspectives, and I am your host, Ghulam Nabi Morai. Viewers, we discuss any topic or a subject in greater details from different perspectives. As usual, Syed Mohibullah Shah, an intellectual writer and an analyst, is with us. Shah Sahab, Assalamu alaikum. Shah Sahab, today's topic is unfinished business of independence. And my first question will be that after 75 years, you still call it unfinished business of independence. And the question is, purpose of independence is still unfinished. Why?
Okay, this is a very important issue, of course. Now, let us first begin, as your question says. Let's see what is the purpose of independence. That's the first thing.
Yes.
And for countries like Pakistan or India or Malaysia or Nigeria or many other developing countries which were a colony of foreign European power. And then from that colony, we got independence. We became sovereign, independent country. So the question is, when we became independent, sovereign country, what was the purpose of becoming independent? What was the need for becoming independent? Were we not independent when the British Raj was here? We were not. We were a colony. And what was the problems with the colony? Why did we want independence? Because people had no dignity living under a colony. People had no rights living under a colony. Their development was not getting priority with the colonial power. Therefore, there was a need. Therefore, everybody felt that this is not a good system. We should become independent so that our social, economic, political independence and political rights should be obtained by us. We should get fruits of that independence, social, economic, and political. And then we should live in dignity as citizens of an independent sovereign state. That is the purpose of independence. That's why we wanted independence. Otherwise, if we say, okay, about the development, well, the British also constructed railway lines here. They also constructed the irrigation system. They also constructed, telephone system, telegraph system, and different roads and highways. But that was not the purpose. Essentially, human beings did not have rights and dignity under a colonial system. That is why we wanted independence. So the purpose of independence is that the people should get the fruits, social, economic, and political benefits. All right? If that is the purpose of independence, now, when we look up, the question then arises, and it's something it's very important, and I want to say our viewers should think about it themselves. You see, if you look at Pakistan's history, two questions will arise. First, we talked about why independence is necessary. That point is settled. Now we advance to a second point. Now, if this independence is necessary, did we want independence from British colonialism, or did we want independence from a possible Hindu majority. Was the purpose of independence, was it communal, only in terms of seeing freedom from a particular community? Or was it a decolonization, that we were living in a colony and we wanted to remove the legacy, the effects, the bad effects of the colonization? What was the purpose? Now, if you read, if you look at these statements from last 75 years, you will find almost that we got independence for communal reasons. You will hardly find any statement from any Pakistani politicians from 1947 that we got this country for the purpose of decolonization, for the purpose of removing the bad effects of living of a colonial regime. So the question is, in simple language, did we want independence only because we just wanted, instead of a Gora, a Christian, a white Christian, just we wanted a brown Muslim to be our ruler, and the system of government remained the same? The system of government was colonial, and it was headed by a white Christian ruler. But we imported the same system in Pakistan, 1935 Act. India as a colony, of which Pakistan was then part, as a colony, it was being governed under India Act of 1935. We adopted the same act as Pakistani Constitution. So that was the act for running a colony. The only difference was that instead of now a Gora or a white Christian, this country was ruled by a brown Muslim. Law was the same. Before 47, it was India Act of 35. After 1947, in Pakistan, it was India Act of 1935, which we were using. So, what it tells us that the state of Pakistan became independent. That is correct. That's a fact.
Physically?
Because we became a separate country. The state of Pakistan became independent. But the people of Pakistan did not become independent. That's the main point. And why did Pakistan of people...
And here I will refer to your book, Struggle Between State, Society and State.
Yeah,
This is what is your book.
Yeah. So, you see, my book also talks about, since you reminded me, my book talks about this struggle between state and society from 5 different perspectives. The struggle between state and society in terms of governance, the struggle between state and society in terms of economic policy, the struggle between state and society in terms of energy, the struggle between state and society in terms of democracy, the struggle between state and society in terms of cultural development. So it examines, my book, it examines the struggle between state and society from various perspectives, as you say. Okay. So now we come back to what I was talking about. All right. So, yes, as I was saying, state of Pakistan became independent in 1947 because the colonial master went away. But the people of Pakistan did not become independent. Why? Because people of Pakistan were living under the same India Act of 1935 under which they were living before 1947. So what was the difference in the lives of people? What was the difference in the lives of people so that they could feel as citizens that something different has happened? Were the colonial laws removed? No. Were they were given, did they receive any say, liberation from the legacy of colonial draconian laws? No. And before colonialism, British colonialism, people in Indian subcontinent were living under Rajas, Maharajas and Mughal empires. They had no right even under that. So, people in 1947, after that, Pakistan as a state became independent. But the people of Pakistan continued to remain without independence under the same system which they were living under before 1947. That is why the purpose of independence was not fulfilled as far as the people of Pakistan were concerned.
Let's meet after the break. Welcome back. Shah Sahab, in this first part, you said that state become independent and people did not. And people did have the fruits of independence. So now, what are the effects on the lives of the people after 1947?
Yes, okay. Now, if the fruits of independence were not enjoyed by the people of Pakistan, what should have happened in order for people to enjoy the fruits of independence? Because as I was saying, the state became independent. One part of independence, one part of the game was complete. The second part of the game was not complete. Second part of the independence was that the people should feel that the burdens of legacies and the ills of colonialism and medievalism are removed and they are liberated. That's the purpose of independence. But it did not happen. That's the now. What could have happened for people to enjoy this? The first thing is the people would start to, as I said, if our purpose, we were talking about it earlier, that if you look at the statements of leaders of Pakistan from 1947 onwards, they do not talk much about that Pakistan was needed to remove the ill effects of British colonialism. Mostly they will define that Pakistan was needed because there should not be Hindu domination over them, not British colonial power. Okay? If the purpose of independence was also to remove the legacies of colonialism, then what should Pakistan have done, or the government should have done? One, it should have removed those colonial laws and framed a democratic constitution to give rights to the people, to remove those bad effects. Instead of continuing the bad effects through the India Act of 1935, it should have given a new constitution which would protect the rights of people, the dignity of people, which will make society and people superior to state.
And how about the Constitution, 1973 Constitution?
We'll come to that, yes.
Yes.
We'll come to that. So, the Constitution protects your rights as people, your dignity, and it places you above the state. A state has duty to serve you. A colonial, let's say British government had a colonial law. It has no duty to serve you. Colonial law is a colony. When the British Raj was there, the whole government was running for the benefit of the British rulers. But we want independence so that the government of Pakistan runs for the benefit of people of Pakistan, not for the rulers who are sitting in the government chair. And that will happen when you first of all have a constitution. Otherwise people have no rights. You talked about 1973 constitution. It was framed after great tragedy had already happened because we were being governed without a constitution, a democratic constitution. But it lasted only 4 years. So the benefits of that constitution did not really flow down to the people as long as they should have, because if we had had a continuous democratic constitutional government, then yes, slowly, gradually, in a continual way, the benefits of the social, economic, political benefits would have flowed, but in due course of time, it didn't happen. So, and that also, the legacy of these 25 years, from 47 to say 73, because either we were running, the country was run under a colonial law, 1935 Act, or under a constitution which was given by a military ruler, not by consent of the people. So that created, 25 years is a long time, and it created a whole infrastructure of government. It created precedents, customs, practices. If you are running a government for 25 years, quarter century, without a democratic constitution, then in 25 years, in your day-to-day business, you frame rules and laws and this, and you practice them. So it created practices and customs and laws and rules which did not recognize the sovereignty of people. This is why. So those rules did not help people of Pakistan to enjoy the fruits of independence. And we can see this. We can see, as your question was, what has been the effect of not empowering and not the people of Pakistan not enjoying the fruits of independence. We can see the evidence of that. How do we see this? If we compare Pakistan with other countries which became independent like Pakistan, either at the same time or few years before or few years after. For instance, I'll give one or two examples. For instance, how they conducted themselves. We see the difference, and then we will see the results of that difference. Malaysia became independent about 8-9 years after us. Pakistan became independent in 1947. Malaysia became independent in 1956. And within 12 months, within 1 year, they framed a democratic constitution. They were a colony. When they became independent, the first thing they did was to remove the colonial cover and frame a democratic constitution within 1 year of getting independence. Indonesia became independent in 1945. And soon thereafter, they framed a constitution to run not according to the the colonial powers law, but according to
But
their
even
own.
India also got the freedom in
Same.
1947.
And then
They gave
India.
the constitution in 1949.
Correct. So, countries that became independent around the same time, so they all were conscious that the first thing is that the people had been living in an unjust system, under an unjust, arbitrary, discriminatory. There was no equality under a colonial rule, a British colonial power, and the citizen of the subcontinent of India, they were not treated equal. There are no equal opportunities. So the democratic constitution gives you, it removes that discriminatory laws, it removes that social and economic unjust system, arbitrariness of governance, and it liberates people. This is what the other countries did. In Pakistan for 25 years, you did not remove the burden over the shoulders and the minds and the thinking of the people. They were working under a system of laws which was unjust, which was arbitrary, which was discriminatory, and therefore it put people to disadvantage. And the results of that disadvantage are, if you see the world index, how people of Pakistan are compared with, say, people of Malaysia or Indonesia or India or Brazil or other countries which were also colonies but became independent about the same time. Did you see that whether we see the rule of law index, how the ranking, whether we see the human capital, which is, whether people have education, have health, whether they have dignity of life, that is covered under human capital, the quality of human capital. Education, human resource development, per capita income, you will find that Pakistan ranks among very bottom countries. In the rule of law or in dispensation of justice, if there are 130 countries compared, Pakistan's position is under the bottom 10 countries. If you look at the human capital or the people of Pakistan, do they have the fruits of independence? Education, health services, protection of their dignity, due processes of law. Most of them you will find that the people of Pakistan have very lowly positions compared to the other people of developing countries which became independent at the same time. This is why I said that the purpose of independence for the state was achieved. State became independent, but the purpose of independence, giving them fruits of independence, were not given to the people of Pakistan. And that is why they show very low level when compared with the people of other developing countries which became independent at the same time.
Let's meet after break. Welcome back. Shah Sahib, part 1, part 2, you explained candidly and with details. Now, what would you suggest? What steps we should take in Pakistan so that people of Pakistan enjoy the fruits of independence?
A very important question. There are a number of things that we can be talked about, but in response to that, I will focus on 4 important points. Well, I think if we could do those things in Pakistan, then not only the country, the state will become prosperous, powerful, stable, but the people of Pakistan will also enjoy the fruits of independence. Four things I will mention. One, we should recognize the difference between the state and government. That we don't do. And it has disadvantages for the people. I think Qaid-e-Azam, in one of his one or two first speeches in the after 47, he had highlighted this fact. But it is also important for many reasons. Let's take a historical view. When there was Mughal Empire in India, and we are part of that empire, there was no difference between state and government. The ruler, Mughal emperor, he was head of his state, he was head of government, he was everything. Now, the refined, reformed, civilized world recognizes that the two things are different, that the state and government are two different things, and they should not be mixed. State is a legal entity which represents the will and authority of all people living in, let us say, Pakistan. The government represents only a part of society. Government today is okay of one political party or another political party, or of this group or that group. That is not the whole country. If it is People's Party, or if it is PMLN, or it is another Muslim League, or it is PTI, they represent only a part of society. What about those who are outside that, they are not part of government party? Who is going to look after their interest and dignity and respect? If the state and the government are same, then those who are not part of the government, they will have a miserable life, because there is no recourse to them. If the government is unjust to them, where will they go for appeal? Because state and government are not separate. So first thing, for protection of the rights of people, for them to enjoy the fruits of independence, are that there should be difference, should be recognized between state and the government, so that a bad decision of a government or a bad act of the government can be appealed to higher authority, which is the state. And also recognize the government is partisan. Government is also this party or that party, and there are other people who are not part of that party. But the state is neutral. State is for everybody. So the difference, if we should always recognize, in all civilized countries, in all democratic countries, the difference is recognized between state and government. Second, the government and the state and government should run not by the fiat or authority of A, B, or C, but by a constitution. The people represent the state, and if the people by their will create a document called the Constitution, which has the support and the will and authority of all the people of that country, then that should be the governing way of running the country, not by this party or that individual or anything. So that is two. Number three, Pakistan is a multicultural state. That is the third part we should recognize. Why do we say this? Because independence also means that the social and cultural dividends of of independence should be enjoyed by the people. The first two parts, that the difference between state and government is very important, fundamental, and that the state should run under a constitution. These two are very essential in order to protect the rights and dignity of citizens. But all power does not belong to the state or government. People have power and they have rights. So that these first two things are essential in order for political rights of people. Third part is essential for the social and cultural benefits or dividends of the people. Because if Pakistan is treated as a unicultural state, then the cultural dividends of people will be denied. So third part is that we should recognize this fact that this is a multicultural state and that there is a cultural variations and differences of people who live in different parts of the country. And therefore, this is a multicultural society. Their languages, their culture should be recognized and respected. This will bring a stable society. Fourth, geography is a very powerful force. Where you live, where you are located on the planet Earth is very important because you can't change that. And the fact is that we should recognize that we are located in the South Asian subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent. We are part of the subcontinent. We are not part of the Middle East. We are not part of the Gulf. We are not part of the Central Asia. We are part of South Asia. And this South Asia has a history and a culture. And the history of South Asia goes back to 5,000 years, when there was Indus Valley civilization. We are inheritors of that rich ancient civilization, and the world is proud of the achievements which the people in Indus Valley civilization made in terms of town planning, in terms of hygiene, in terms of quality of life, in terms of trade, in terms of art, architecture. It will be interesting for people and viewers to know that one of the first acts of civilization, how did civilization come into being? People, say before 10,000 years, they were living as hunter-gatherers, as nomads, roaming around after food. Wherever there's a food today, they are here, tomorrow they are there, and they are there. Two things happened. One, people learned over centuries experience that this is a particular wild crop. There are certain wild crops which can be used as food, like wheat. Okay? And then there are certain wild crops, certain wild plants which can create a fabric for us to wear. So the two main things which happened, they identified the plants which were giving food, like wheat, and they identified cotton plant that will give a cloth to cover the naked bodies. This is the beginning of civilization, and that is when large-scale cultivation of wheat and cotton started, and villages and the towns and cities developed. Because now they could live at permanent one place and have large cultivation. Now, where was cotton first cultivated?
We are talking about the steps we should take. Steps we should take.
I am talking about the geography and the history that we are rooted here. And I want to say the pride people should take in Indus Valley civilization because you are rooted, this is your history. And we are denying our history. We think we are Middle Eastern people, Arabs are brothers and all, but there's a different territory, different history. We are part of South Asia. And I want to tell people that cotton was first cultivated in the world in ancient history, nowhere else. It was first cultivated in the Indus Delta, and the Indus Delta is none other but Sindh. This is where the first act of civilization took place. Fourth point is that we should accept our geography. Now let me recount all the four. One, it is important that we should recognize the difference between state and society, state and government. Two, we should recognize that we should govern under a continuous system of constitution so that people's rights are protected. Three, we should recognize that Pakistan is a multicultural society so that social and cultural dividends of people are enjoyed by them. And fourth, we should recognize the power of geography. We belong to South Asia and we are proud inheritors of Indus Valley civilization. The whole world takes a pride and we should remember this, and because that will solve our problem of the identity which is unnecessarily being created. We should accept these four things, and I think we will be then people will be able to enjoy the real fruits of independence. Fruits of independence in their social and cultural life, in their economic and political life. This is the way to go forward.
Thank you, Shah Sahab. Goodbye, viewers.